Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the show. Great to be here with you today on this Cabral Concept. Our Total Wellness Tuesday topic of the week is going to be exhausted all the time. Here's the solution. So this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart whenever we talk about absolute exhaustion, brain fog, just feeling so low in all areas of your life. If you don't know my story, it began essentially with Addison's disease, which is the inability to produce cortisol, myalgic encephalomyelitis, which is those flu-like symptoms that your body always feels so heavy and worn out and drained of energy, and essentially what was called chronic fatigue immunodeficiency syndrome, or just chronic fatigue syndrome, which again goes along with Addison's base disease, and that also includes fibromyalgia, et cetera, et cetera. So here's the thing. I mean, these at least in terms of Addison's disease, it's a diagnosed disease. And doctors don't ever give you any hope of overcoming these types of diseases. It's just basically a death sentence. That's really what it is. It's like, well, try to live the best life that you can in the time that you have. And we're going to give you some Cortef and maybe some Florinef for the POTS. I forgot to mention I have POTS as well, which is severe lightheadedness, essentially upon standing, a rapid heart rate, especially upon any type of movement. So not ideal. But here's the thing. I overcame it with not the best genetics. If you're worried about your genetics, mine certainly are not the gold standard, that's for sure. And I did it through really understanding my body at a deeper level, and of course, with the help of great mentors and all of the books and education that I've gotten. So what I want to do, though, is someone that no longer has Addison's disease or any of these things and I wake up with abundant energy, not that I want to impress anything upon you, but simply to let you know that if I came from Addison's disease, which is the inability to produce energy, to where I am today, where, I can do things such as work 12 hours a day, hang out with my girls, race, like literally before this, I was running down the hallways with my daughters. And these are things that I would never imagine, that I would be doing, right? Doing sprint triathlons. These are just never in my wildest imagination. So it's beyond that. And what I want to share with you today, as we're not going to talk about Addison's disease and those types of things today, that's really a diagnosed disease. What I'm going to share with you are 9 reasons, the 9 most common reasons, because Addison's is not common, but the 9 most common reasons why you feel exhausted all the time. So I'd like to take you through that right now, step by step. Everything will be at stephencabral.com/2097. All right, so stephencabral.com/2097 is today's show. So anything I mention on today's show will be on those show notes as specific links. Okay, so the solution is, for the most part, and we're going to get to the 9 different reasons why, that's part of the solution, but is that most people don't really know why they're tired all the time. So the thing is, they have hunches, they have guesses, and sometimes they're right, and sometimes it's a bit off. And the problem is this, is that sometimes when we work on those hunches and we don't end up getting the energy back, we feel like we failed. And so that's simply something that I want you not to have to deal with. And I want you to understand that oftentimes it's a multifactorial based approach, which is why you may not have been successful in the past. I talk about this again I literally give you exactly what I do in my practice inside of the Rain Barrel Effect. That book is free now at StephenCabral.com. So I don't feel like I'm not trying to sell you anything. It's 100% of all profits anyways for the period of time that the book has been out have always been donated to charity as well. But I give you the de-stress protocol because you have to understand is that it's not typically one thing. I'm going to give you a lot of one things today, but oftentimes we have one or two of them. So I just wanted to explain that as well. All right. So let's dive right in right now. All right. So the first one is this. The first reason someone may feel exhausted all the time is because their sleep is disturbed. Now you might say, well, of course, right? If you're not getting enough sleep, you're going to be tired. But not everybody knows that. So I'm creating this show for our health-based community, but I'm also creating it and tomorrow's show as well on the gut for our integrative health practitioners that I certify and teach as health coaches as well. Not everybody knows that. So, and I want to give you a good example. I was at a conference. It was a small conference that I was at. I was speaking at it. And probably about 100 people. This is about maybe 4 months ago or so. And someone came up to me and they said, you know what? I just literally feel exhausted all the time. I feel like a zombie. Coffee used to work and now coffee isn't even working. So I'm asking some pretty high level questions. And after about maybe 5 minutes or 6 minutes of going back and forth with some pretty high level questions, I just by chance asked, hey, how many hours of sleep do you get a night? And they were like, 4.5 to 5.5. And it was on me. I was like, I just asked all these questions that were much higher level when this person is literally exhausted because they're not sleeping. And so we have to understand that sleep and sleep quality is so important to our energy. And I have a podcast on this, so I will link it up today at StephenCabral.com/2097 on how much sleep you actually need. Some people need 7, some 8, some 9, and I go through who needs what. But also what's important is that the sleep is not disturbed. So let's say you're a new mom or dad. You're in bed, and every hour and a half you have to wake up because you have a crying baby. Maybe you're in bed for 9 hours, but you're up 4, 5 times a night. Okay, that is then disturbed sleep. So it's not great quality sleep. So it's not going to be as good either. If you're tracking your biometrics for sleep, I have a podcast on how much REM sleep you need in order to repair the brain and shuffle around all the different memories in there. And then I have how much deep sleep you need in order to repair the body as well. So really important that we look at that. All right. So there's so many things you can do, but we need to improve the quality of sleep. Sometimes it's simply saying, listen, you're eating too close to bed. It's disturbing your sleep. You shouldn't be eating within an hour or 2 hours of bed. Then the energy is going to keep you up, which is being used for digestion. Or are you going to bed past 11, midnight? It's not within your normal sleep cycle, diurnal rhythm-based range. So really, really important. Again, I have a podcast on these things. I will link them up for you here today. But you just have to check off, no, sleep is good. Okay, that's not the reason you're exhausted. Let's move on to the next one, right? So the next one is anemia. But when we talk about anemia, everyone right away goes to iron. Iron on a lab test. So for the most part, most medical doctors are going to run one iron number, and they're going to run TIBC. It stands for total iron binding capacity. It's a good number to run. You should definitely run TIBC. However, it is ferritin. If you're only going to run one more number, you can run transferritin, you can run ferritin. If you're going to run just one more number, you want to run ferritin. Excuse me. You want to run ferritin. And the reason is that's usable iron, right? That's the iron that your body is actually able to use. So it's an important number to run. But there's only one type of anemia, right? If you have anemia, whether it be from iron or these others I'm going to share with you, it's essentially low oxygen in the red blood cells, right? Well, think about, being deprived of oxygen. Probably not going to have a lot of energy, right? Well, this can go on at a functional level. So if you're functionally low in iron or any of these things, we need to boost them up. Another cause of anemia, different type, is low vitamin B12. Okay, that can be a simple fix for a lot of people. I don't recommend necessarily supplementing with just B12. I typically recommend all the Bs, like in an activated B complex, but certainly B12 is an important one. Low copper is another form of anemia as well. Nobody ever thinks of low copper because it's not as common, but it is possible that low copper is an issue, right? So we look at copper as well. And then the other cofactors for getting more oxygen into your red blood cells, you have trillions of blood cells. So you need oxygen for those mitochondria as well, right? You need oxygen for the body and brain to work. It could be low vitamin C, functionally low, right? Depleted because of stress or viruses, etc. Could be low calcium, magnesium. Both of those are needed. And it could be low zinc as well. So remember, these are important factors to look at that could be causing your exhaustion. Simple lab testing will be able to show. All right, the third one is low cortisol. Low cortisol can be Addison's disease, right? But not typically. Typically, it's just on the lower side. What we say in our practice is like below a 6 in the morning when you wake up, right? And it oftentimes can be higher at night. So that's called a dysfunctional diurnal rhythm. It's called tired and wired. Tired in the morning, wired in the evening, can't sleep. Makes no sense, right? Well, there is a reason why that is, and I've explained that again on previous shows, so I'll link that up here today because that's a topic for another day. But it can lead to you feeling like you have brain fog, like you're a zombie, a walking zombie in the morning, right? Until 10 a.m., 11 a.m., noon, until the body starts to wake up, till you start to produce a bit more cortisol, right? You can have varying degrees of fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue syndrome or brain fog or any type of lethargy with this low cortisol, especially in the AM. So it's important to look at that. It's an easy one to run, simple lab test. It's called a hormones test, stress hormones, mood and metabolism test. These are all at stephencabral.com/labs. And again, that one specifically, you go to stephencabral.com/hormones-lab. If you want to run it, that goes for these next couple. But again, you don't have to run it inside of our practice. You can run it with any integrative health practitioner level 2. That you feel comfortable with, and that's great as well. So the fourth reason you could be tired is low thyroid. Many people have heard of this, which is great now. We're getting more information out there to more people to understand that about 1 in 5 women have functionally low thyroid and about 1 in 10 men. So that's a problem because when you have low thyroid, you're looking at poor circulation, potentially cold hands and feet. You're looking at weight gain, water retention, brain fog, thinning of the hair, dry skin. I mean, these are things that not a lot of people want. So what you have to understand is that thyroid especially hinges upon cortisol and stress. So you can't look at, and I know so many women and men looking at thyroid in a vacuum. It can't be looked at in a vacuum. The thyroid is affected by norepinephrine, think adrenaline, and glucocorticoids, think cortisol. And those two hormones, stress hormones or neurotransmitters, such as norepinephrine, literally begin to slow down the thyroid. It slows down metabolic rate because we're in a state of stress, right? So we definitely want to check that out as well. And then low sex hormones is the last one. We talked about stress hormones. We talked about thyroid as the metabolic hormone. And now we're talking about sex hormones. If your DHEA is low, if your testosterone is low in both men and women, you are going to feel low mood, low drive, low libido, low ambition. There's just no doubt about it. Testosterone is one of those hormones that's like the alpha hormone that keeps us wanting to keep moving forward in life, right? But then also, and this goes especially for women, as stress begins to climb, as cortisol begins to climb, as stress hormones and sleep begin to fall, women's progesterone and estrogen become dysregulated. And they begin to have lower levels of progesterone, oftentimes normal, or sometimes even low estrogen as well. All of this can lead to low mood, irritability, increase in PMS-based symptoms, oily skin, acne, hair loss as well. So these are important factors to look at. So that has to do with the sex hormones too. Basically, cortisol, thyroid, all the sex hormones, all of that can be tested on that stress hormones mood and metabolism test. Again, feel free to request it from your favorite practitioner or run it with our team right online. And you can find those labs at stevencabral.com/labs. But that is really how you get to the bottom of this. All right, number 6, we still have a few more to go. Number 6, another reason for exhaustion is depression. Now you might say, well, my exhaustion led to my depression. That is true, right? I can definitely say I was depressed for a period of my life when I became exhausted. They kind of coincided. Like I thought, well, this is my life now. I have no energy. I have brain fog. I used to play sports every season. I used to try to excel in school. I used to do all of these different things. And now I can't even play a pickup game of basketball without getting flu-like symptoms the next day and swollen glands. This is a miserable life. I was not happy, right? That was the honest truth. Now, I was able to overcome that. But some people, the depression actually comes first, and the psychology affects your physiology. So how your mind thinks actually affects your body. And in my case, it was how my body affected my mind. But we want to realize it can work in reverse as well. And low mood, depression, anxiety, PTSD, all of these things can actually affect our immune system, which dysregulates our inflammation. It can affect our digestion because it puts us more in fight or flight. And it can really wear down the body. So my suggestion in this area is to look at both body and mind. Right? You might want to run a neurotransmitters test. You might want to run a hormones-based test. But at the same time, you definitely want to seek out a qualified psychologist or psychiatrist or like internal family systems-based medicine, cognitive behavioral therapy, neurolinguistic programming, whatever you feel talks to you, and begin to work through a lot of these psychological-based imbalances as well. So that's really important because, again, all of that, whether it's relationships, work, childhood, can affect our body as well. So I really do believe in working on both. All right, number 7 is gut dysfunction. You might say, well, what does my digestion have anything to do with my energy? Well, first, you often become low on B12 and iron and calcium and zinc because you have low stomach acid or you have low digestion, right? Poor, slow, weak digestion. And then your gut bacteria is imbalanced, so you're not making the proper amount of B12 in the gut as well. So these are really important factors to look at for absorption of the good food you're eating. Plus, when your gut is inflamed with food sensitivities or parasites or H. pylori or candida or bacterial overgrowth or all of them, right? Intestinal permeability, it creates quite a bit of inflammation, which leads to anxiety, right? Because your gut, remember, it speaks to your brain. It's literally connected. So there's a nerve that runs from your gut, your enteric nervous system. It has its own nervous system, all the way up to your brain, behind your ear. Connects right to the brain, called the vagus nerve. And it will give you feelings of uneasiness, of irritability, of anxiousness when things are wrong in the gut as well. So if you feel bloated, it's certainly a good sign, but I have a gut-based assessment at stevencabral.com/assessments. All these assessments are free. And especially if you can't afford lab testing or you're thinking about which lab to run one of the assessments. The assessments are literally free. I don't even ask for your email address. So these are all hopefully, these are what I do in practice and hopefully they're helpful to you. You can run one of the assessments called bacteria, right? Bacterial overgrowth. You can run another one called yeast if you'd like, all right? These are really important. All right, so the 8th one is this, coming in on those 9, blood sugar spikes and drops. If you are someone that drinks fruit juice or eats cereal for breakfast or muffins for breakfast or breakfast bars that are mainly processed flour, what you have to be careful of is it gives you a little boost, especially if you're drinking that with a coffee, but then an hour and a half or so later, you get the crash. Ups and downs, up and down. And if you start that with breakfast in the morning, it's going to be difficult to recover the rest of the day. which of course is why I recommend a good, solid, balanced breakfast, a smoothie. If you need a little bit more, you can have some oatmeal on the side. You can always add a little bit extra if you choose to. But you get your healthy protein, your fats, your vitamins, your minerals, your carbs, good fiber, stay satiated, right? Drink that smoothie over an hour and a half period of time if you want. Really time release it. But you need to make sure that you're not going up and down throughout the day, that you're not snacking all the time, that you're having regulated meals. And you can check out my podcast on that as well, on why 3 meals per day, okay? And then also check out my show if you feel hungry within an hour to 2 after a meal, of how it's usually a signal of not enough protein and or fiber at the meal before. So we'll try to link that up at stephencabral.com/2097. And now the last one for today is, believe it or not, the last reason for low energy, exhaustion, is too little movement. You might say to yourself, well, I don't have any energy, and now you're asking me to walk more or exercise? The answer is actually yes. And the reason is, if you do it slow enough and gradual enough, it actually creates small hermetic stressors to the body, which then force the body to become just a bit stronger and a bit more resilient. And actually, I spoke about that just a couple weeks ago on the stress hormone called galanin. And that was episode 2085. And then I would love you to check out a show in episode 2015 on why exercise actually raises your baseline of what your body can tolerate in terms of stress and energy. Because a little bit of exercise, maybe every other day getting started, it even just might be walking until you get up to your 10,000 steps, is that is going to improve your overall mitochondrial function, your absorption of nutrients, your utilization of nutrients. So don't overlook a good graduated exercise program. If you have no idea what that is, again, I talk about that in my book, The Rain Barrel Effect. You can get a free copy at stephencabral.com. And we teach it in depth inside of the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute as well. So I've gone in depth on all these topics previous to this, but what I wanted to share with you, in our practice of working with hundreds of thousands of people, we can tell you that most people feel exhausted because of one of these 9 main issues. So if you can begin to narrow that down through at-home lab testing or those assessments that I spoke about on my website, which are, again, completely free, that's going to then allow you then to work on the 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 that you need the most help with. So hopefully this was helpful. Again, if I can answer any questions, I'm always happy to, or even do a follow-up podcast on anything that maybe was a bit confusing. So thank you so much. As always, please do feel free to share this show with anyone else you believe it could serve. Thank you so much for tuning into today's show. I want to make sure that before you leave, you know about this special offer going on over at Equilife. It is called our Shake It Up offer. We are giving away our free Pro Stack bottles. These are basically 4-in-1 shaker bottles that allow you to take 3 servings of your favorite daily nutritional support powder or other type of protein powder, plus all of your capsules for the day with you. Pretty amazing shaker bottle for what it does. People love it for the functional medicine detox because they can take 3 servings during the day with them to work or to school or whatever it might be. So we've got that Pro Stack shaker bottle, $19.95 value. Plus, we're also giving away your choice of the shaker bottle or our white tumbler. Our white tumbler enables you to keep your cold drinks cold or your hot drinks hot. So hot green tea, hot herbal tea, whatever it is that you enjoy drinking, you can get that white tumbler as well. So to see all the details for a free shaker bottle or free tumbler, head on over to stephencabral.com/Equilife to see those additional details and how you can get yours free. Take care, everyone.